Hey guys, you're listening to the Energy of the Untamed Heart podcast, where we talk about uncaging your divinely gifted wild heart to be as free and expansive as you were born to be. My goal is to use our stories, guest interviews, and your questions to tease out what has been keeping your wild heart under wraps. I'm your host, Mielle Fox, and together we will shatter the myths of our old stories to set our wild heart free. So thanks for choosing you and showing up. Let's jump right in. Ashley Meyer is a confidence and business coach who teaches overcoming obstacles, cultivating vision, and transforming businesses and lives. Her passion is to give hope for others experiencing challenges. She's the creator and host of the podcast Hero in the Mirror. She has experience through her military exposure globally, as well as coaching, life coaching, business coaching, and showing others how the journey can really begin by taking a good look in the mirror and accepting and being accountable to yourself as you grow and move forward.
I wanted to just acknowledge you for the work and the voice that you already have
Oh my
in your
gosh. Well, aren't you
podcast.
the sweetest? Disclaimer for the listeners is if this piece goes up is I did not pay Ashley to say this. She just said it. So, honey
Oh,
girl, thank you. Aren't you the
oh,
sweetest? Thank you so
oh,
much. Yes. And I'm so grateful that you said this because I started out the podcast like clueless, completely clueless, no idea. Like, had to Google what is a podcast. That's how clueless I was. Like, what is a podcast? I've self taught everything like how to work the software, how to put it together. And I've spent more time in IT purgatory than you can possibly know. Cause I listen to everything again because I'm like, I wonder what the value really is. And the reason I say that is the second statement that you made was you sometimes don't hear what you say. I'm going to share a little insider piece of me that I don't really tell people very much, but this is truly how I roll. I get on with somebody like yourself, anybody. This happens all the time for me. And I have no idea what I'm going to say. I have no idea what I'm going to ask. I usually have no idea. I truly just try to get in what I call get in the zone, center, ground myself. Like I'm going to have a great talk. This is somebody new I've never, had a conversation with. I'm curious what they're going to come forward with. And then boom, it just shows up. And then whatever has to come through my lips literally just comes out. There's no, let me think about this. So I, I am really grateful that you noticed that we sometimes get tangled up in what should we say, how should we say, and then you also notice that it really doesn't make a hill of beans sometimes as long as the energy behind what you're saying is present, which speaks to why did I make the podcast? Because I really feel so strongly that everybody has a beautiful heart. Everybody, even like your worst societal offenders, if they could like peel all the things that made them societal offenders deep, deep in there, they came here initially with a beautiful heart and life circumstances, choices, programming, conditioning, you name it, has built this gigantic wall around people's hearts. And so do some of us get back to where we started? Sure. Do some of us not, and we leave this earth in not a pleasant way? Sure. Do some of us struggle forever? Sure. Do some of us seem to have the easy path? Sure. I don't know why that is. It just is what it is. So, with all of that, thank you. Aren't you just the sweetest? Thank you so much. I'm
mm,
so excited to have today's
absolutely.
conversation.
Same. I just call it like I see it.
Yeah.
And truly it was just every conversation heartfelt. And as you say, leading that way and just having your heart sort of direct the show, it's been so beautiful.
It may be like a little squirrely, but first of all, how did Fierce get in between Ashley and Meyer? Because I see that you have your profile ID
Yeah.
as Ashley Fierce Meyer. So how'd you get there? Like, what's that?
Yes. 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 I think it was like to allude to some of what you were talking about, those of us who sort of leave this lifetime a little damaged, a little hurt, not having healed through some of the things. And for me, I was largely just a kid who wasn't sure of herself early on. And I never knew like what was the moment to speak up, what's the right thing to say if that exists at all. And so I felt a lot of external pressure to say things and to be things that were not me. And so I went on this journey, and I've come to find that I've always been on a spiritual journey. I'm only now learning to call it that, um, which, by the way, means that every moment is blessed and the hard moments are very much needed to mold and create the woman or, human that you are. And so, but gosh, that journey was hard. And so, from the beginning, not being somebody who was capable of coming on Miel's podcast or, saying hello, hi, I'm doing well, even in a conversation period, I did not speak. If someone would ask me what's going on, I just one word answer, fine. I'm fine. And that was it. I was almost like a vault. And so I went away to college. I had this whole thing with my parents, as we all do. And they were beautiful, loving people. So I'm so, so fortunate for that. But there was a dynamic there. And so going away for college, I thought, here's this chance. I can prove myself. I can finally be me. I can, um, just like sort of answer the calling of that still small voice that I believe we all have. I failed out of college and didn't handle that well because it meant, this was my chance and I squashed it, squandered it, tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And by the way, I had worked 3 jobs during college. So it wasn't for lack of trying. But I didn't understand where I was missing something. Where am I reaching for a ledge to try to hold on and like pull myself up to something in life? But somehow I was grasping, I was missing. I could grab nothing. And, side note, based on the knowledge that I have now, I was reaching externally. So, you know, let's just put a pin in that because later you figure out, oh, there's a lot externally, but there's also a lot on the inside. And so perhaps I was looking in the wrong place. But anyway, I ran away from college. I ran away from Iowa in the US, which is where I'm from and living now, actually. I joined the Air Force as fast as I could. And within 7 days of talking to a recruiter, I was in basic training, having someone yell at me, tell me what to do, who to be, how to accomplish a mission. And I got really good at that. But you know what, Miel? It was not the voice inside of me that I was listening to yet. And so, by the way, my first duty station was overseas. I lived in England for almost 3 years. So I was like, get me the hell out of Iowa. I've been in the Bible Belt and I need some other perspectives. I need some experience in life. And so, in a lot of ways, my time in the Air Force served me well. But as I said, I wasn't necessarily learning to tune to that voice, to the knowing that was always inside of me. And so I did my 5 years. I got out, that we all have these like bad relationships or things that happen also along the way. And so somewhere in there, I was married and divorced, which was also a hard experience because it's like having a mirror slapped in your face. Why did this fail? This beautiful union that was supposed to be about love failed. And, I was 50% of that failed equation. So the owning of that on top of having failed out of college, really hard for me. And I truly loved my ex-wife. And so, I'm just reeling at this point, which I think a lot of us find moments that, we don't know which way is up. And that's how I felt. I didn't know who to turn to. And so upon leaving the military, staying overseas for 10 years, disconnected from my family of origin, I hardly even called them, which is horrible. today I have healed and mended a lot of these relationships. But when you just vanish for 10 years, that's hard. Both for me having missed my family, but also the people that I left behind. And I was acting as if those relationships did not matter to me, and that was not true. I deeply love my family. I have 3 siblings. Both of my parents, thankfully, are still around. Just loving, loving people, but for some reason, I was driving them away. So I became a coach because I no longer had a mission given to me by, an officer or someone I reported to. And I was seeking a mission in life, as I think many, many beautiful souls that roam this planet are seeking. Where do I contribute? Who do I love? How do I ensure that my experience matters? And, I just, each of us, I think, says something like, I want to give this love that I have away. I believe you were saying that even like, criminals and people who are sort of delinquents in society, like they're redeemable. And if you strip away all of the layers, then what is there? Well, it's something good, something that I would say is love. So in being a coach, I found a new sort of, I wouldn't say a mission because it was also like self-healing, and it's not like there's an end goal. My end goal now is to love and fully be in every moment that I experience. So there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to be. There's no one to be necessarily, except for who and how and where I am. And that in itself is beauty. So that's a really long answer to your question. How did fierce get between my two names? But I was doing a meditation in this become a coach journey, and it's called a future self meditation, very, very common in the coaching world. You sort of close your eyes, clear out all the cluttery crap in your head, and then you venture mentally into this future state, this future place. And there's like some differing ideas about whether we actually go there, or are we sort of just still in the here now moment, or and like accessing that sort of what would my life be like hypothetically. And so, spiritually, I don't know that it matters. It's still a really awesome practice. So I asked my future self in a meditation, who would you have me be? How would you have me speak? And the answer, what would you call yourself, this future 2.0 version of Ashley? The answer was fierce. And that meant I could no longer zip my lip. I could no longer be silent, that girl that I once was. And the things that I say are essential because I don't know who might need to hear them. But it is my responsibility and my privilege to be able to use my voice. So, short answer, it was in a meditation, but I feel like you needed the backstory.
I like the
But I
long
still go by
answer.
Ashley.
Yeah, I love the
Oh,
long
thank you.
story. So there's so many things here. So thank you for your service. Absolutely. I am so
Yeah.
grateful and honored to meet people who have chosen to serve for their country. And part of the reason I say that is I when I went through college, I had an opportunity. Of course, they offer you a chance. Do you want to offset some of your school debt? You can go into the military. Da 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 da. And I was such an adamant, nope, can't go there. And not because I didn't love my country, not because I don't love the people, but because at that particular time in my life, I was completely, shall I say, not moldable to be taught anything beyond what I wanted to learn. Um, I have an extremely strong I don't even have the best word, stubborn streak, I guess. If there's one thing that's like throwing a match on the fire for me, it's pretty much telling me what to do. And so I think for people who are willing to um, share their life in the military and for the betterment of the collective and the world, I think for some of us, we have to be able to set that aside. And at that particular time of my life, I mean, granted, I've got decades on me now, but back then, that was not in my wheelhouse. And so I thank you. I thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I thank you. Because I think it is a tremendous gift for someone to I'm going to say almost give of themselves, like put their own being sort of on a back burner for the betterment of others. That being said, I also feel that there's an enormous piece where it it almost puts some of your, not your all of it, but it puts a little bit of your capacity for personal growth a little bit on a back burner because you can only go so far before you're sort of instructed, hey, you can't, this isn't okay, or you can't do this, or we need you over here, or whatever the thing is, which is a very different personal growth trajectory when you can make your own decisions and you're not sort of boundaried in by external factors like this is what I've signed up for when I joined the Air Force or the Army or the Navy or Coast Guard or any of the other branches. But before I get completely off the rails, I just want to say thank you. Thank you. I also really honor your vulnerability and really expressing clearly where you started out, where you came from, and where you feel you are. And I heard you say twice that you felt that you failed in college and failed in your personal relationship. And I really dislike the word fail myself, because it really puts us on some kind of a standard. Like if you don't meet this, this, and this, then that's not acceptable, and therefore you get the big F. Um, and I really feel that the reason we quote unquote our perception of failure at some place in our lives or in some relationship is not a failing. It's really, and you don't see it in the moment, but it's really an opportunity to see a reflection of where can I concentrate on my personal, on myself, on how can I love myself more? How can I, what is being reflected to me? What is being shown to me in whatever it is, whether it's school or work or your personal life? You're literally having a dance with any of these pieces, whatever that is, and how that connection and relationship interacts is how the reflection comes back to, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this is the gospel. This is just the way I see it. And so it's easy to put all the onus on yourself to say, oh, I failed at college. Well, how about maybe college failed you? Oh, I failed my parents. Well, dare I say, how about even though you love your parents, without their knowing, trying to do the best they could, there were pieces of your upbringing that maybe were not the most serving for you. So it's super easy to own it and take it on. I did the same thing at a younger age. Oh gosh, I'm not successful because I didn't meet this, 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 and this. Okay,
Mm,
well, okay, in the long run, okay. The thing is, like, who said that?
yeah.
Who said it had to be that way? Who said you had to do X, Y, and Z? When you really pare it down and you really dig into, well, who said it had to be like that? The answer usually comes back to, oh, we thought it had to be like that. We assumed, we decided, we believed for whatever the reason. And so hence we come forward in this
Mhm.
journey and spend quite a bit of time sort of peeling back all the things that we layered on, which is fine because, that's what we're here for. That's why we're here. So I really appreciate your vulnerability and sharing that. It's hard. And it's really interesting because you speak so eloquently and you speak so clearly and so truly from a place of really deep seated feeling and honesty that um, the the very kind of softness on the outside that is apparent, like your energy is very soft as you stand there, but you're very much very strong behind that. So for the listeners, you don't have a video on Ashley, but let me tell you, she's a cutie pie, and she's got a very sweet demeanor and very soft and very loving. You can see it come off of her being. I mean, it's just there, but behind it, you can also see a really very, very strong sense of strength. Like, okay, I got this. If I got to do it, I'm going to do it. And so it's interesting. I think probably my word, if I have to shove a word in between my two names, is probably resilient. So you can be Ashley Fierce Meyer and I can be Miel Resilient Fox, because that same, the intensity, the energy that you require to weather the storm until you get to the other side can sometimes be really challenging. And so to really hold, I think is part of the journey, to really just know that at the edge of the precipice, at the edge of the fear, at the edge of the darkest night of the soul, when you're at that, right on that edge, what's on the other side is going to be amazing. And if you can just be fierce or be resilient and just hold and go through the thing, the other side of it can be really
Right.
beautiful. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I also
Well,
know
thank
that,
you.
yes,
I receive all
absolutely.
of that, by the
Oh,
way.
good.
Thank you.
It's well intended. I know you have a podcast, and I would love for
Yeah.
you to share what is the best thing that you have discovered about yourself in creating and sharing your podcast, for those listeners who
Oh my
maybe are not
gosh.
quite familiar with it.
Yeah. Um, First, if I may, I want to piggyback off of where my mind went when you were talking about really the rejection of failure. I love that so much. And it, I think you're right that labeling it a failure sort of like puts a period at what is still very much an ongoing, changing life experience. And so there's no period. It's just, it's like an ellipsis, like you're still in process. We're all still in process. And so you're right. For me to label that a failure was largely inaccurate. Today I'm remarried so happily. We have a son. He's about to be a year old in a week. He's just a beautiful, joyful, all of the things that come from life beyond the failure and through the failure are just incredible. So that aside, I also went back and finished my bachelor's. So pat on my back. Not that I think anyone needs one. I don't believe that at all. Um, I'd love to see the version of my life that would end up, you know, a millionaire, which is a goal, without having a degree, but I can't unhave a degree now. So whatever. All that to say, I believe with or without a degree, there's no cap on your income. That's important to say. But in navigating those failures, as I called them, let's relabel them now as incredibly deep life experiences where I felt lost. So those times, while I have sort of like navigated a winding path, I want to give your listeners just a little bit of practical support, because if you find yourself in a space where you're wandering and you're unsure and it feels like this might be a capital F situation, you know, Miel and Ashley are telling you to avoid that label. But what do you do? I think for me, a major lesson was the learning that there are different aspects of myself inside myself. What do you mean, Ashley? Okay, I'll tell you. So, there's this part of me that feels broken, feels abandoned, feels silenced, feels, subjected to whatever, insert whatever experience you're currently having. There is that part of you. There is also a part of you which is connected to love and compassion and infinite energy and life force. And so to say that your life is nothing but this broken, craziness is largely inaccurate. I think it's important to know in those moments that you're still very much connected to love, to other people, to water. Like, this is life giving. Did you eat today? You have things to be grateful for. Is there air in the room where you are sitting or standing? These are the gifts. These are the things that we can shift to and say, wow, while this part of me might be experiencing a broken, crazy thing, I also am so supported in that I have access to clean water. I have breath in my lungs, and someone or something is beating my beautiful heart. But truly sitting in the knowing of that. And there's this amazing teaching by Thich Nhat Hanh about impermanence. I think it's relevant here because your brokenness is not forever. It's not. How do we know this? Nothing is forever. No moment, how similar it feels, will ever be exactly the same. You're not the same. You're not in the same body. Circles of friends shift, change, people move, life circumstances change, your income changes, all of it changes. What you eat changes. This is the nature of life. And I think that we can decide to feel supported in how it's almost the gift of a brand new beginning. Something being impermanent is not scary, but it's a gift that I can shift whatever experience I'm having into something, even if it's just saying, hey, broken part of me, I see you. That is hard. And I love you. And you know what? I'm going to take a step forward for the both of us, whatever that looks like. Calling a friend, making a coffee date, reading a book that makes you laugh. So I felt like a lot of that was important to just piggyback off of the capital F conversation. And we can now sort of shift gears to talk about my podcast, which is Life and Business Coaching with Hero in the Mirror. Um, I suppose I sort of alluded to what all that is about in the way that I guided someone through a broken hard moment, because in my belief and in my experience, there is that voice that's there for each of us, whether you're tuned to it, whether you're in a habit of listening to it. It's somewhere, might be really quiet. Maybe you need to work on increasing the volume. Okay, that's fine. I've been there before. We give others voices such power, such volume, such validity, even. And we feel like, oh, my mom or my partner or my teacher said this, and so I cannot question it. It must be true, right? But that's so interesting. What if it's not? What if that's just them speaking from their experience, which is, by the way, the only thing that any of us can do is speak from our experience. So remembering the lens, and then, hey, if my teacher tells me that, there's like this, okay, I like what is it called? The science around electrons, because it's a really practical scientific example. And we used to think, if your teacher tells you electrons go around a nucleus, right? That's the negative charge in like
Old school
atoms and ions and
Newtonian
all this.
physics, right?
Old school. But we
Newtonian
now
physics.
know that it's not that at all. So at
No,
some point, someone being told Newtonian physics could have said, well, this is how it is, full stop. But I'm saying,
now
like
it's quantum.
you were saying, now it's quantum. Now there's a field. It's actually a field around the nucleus, which is like all the ions, and it's spinning. It's very much spherical. This is a totally different understanding. And I think a couple of important points, detaching from the knowing, the hard, the things I can write down and say definitively this is true. I think that's really dangerous, because just like a capital F situation, you're sort of locking yourself in. And What I'm learning more and more after 35 years of life, Miel, is there's not much that gets locked in. Everything we're learning, we're shifting, we're growing. Look at what what America was in the 90s and sort of the challenges and the circumstances that surround it today. Like and globally, even more just anyway. But again, all of that's not supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be incredibly empowering that things change and we're all going to be okay because of that. So, Hero in the Mirror podcast means as things are changing externally, what do you say? What do you think? Who do you want to be in your life and in your business? And I get to, like you, have really awesome conversations with people. So, that wasn't easy though, hitting record for the first time. I'm on my 76th episode now,
Oh,
and the first ones, yeah, it's incredible. But each one I learned, the first ones were horrible, admittedly. I just used my phone in the beginning, and I'd hit record, and I'd just say, "Uh, this is something I was thinking about," and it was so awkward. And then you like play your own voice back, and you're just mortified. But then you learn, like, I'm so impressed by you because you say you were in, what did you say, technology purgatory? But you've clearly pulled yourself out because I've heard your stuff. It's quite good. And so, very similarly, I found a software, I found a little program that, could like take my voice or make the squeaks and the weird stuff sound like more somebody could pop their headphones in and not, you know, have a horrible sound happening. I also found this microphone. I got it for my birthday. And you just build. It's The podcast is an analogy for life because you're just building, you're just figuring it out. I didn't used to have music at the beginning of the shows. Then I had one song which I got from my cousin, and then I was like, "Oh, okay, let me like try something new." So now I have a different song, and it's like, "Do I even like my intro?" Okay, so you redo it, and it's all good. Like I leave up every single podcast episode because I don't want to, like, we look at the stars, Taylor Swift is a great example. Oh my gosh, megastar, right? Just overnight success. Like she was always destined to be this incredible musician. What about every moment where she doubted herself, where she had to take a messy step forward? You and I are no different. There's nothing special about her. We're all equal in terms of our capacity to achieve anything that we decide to step into. It's just the willingness to do it messy.
so
And by the
interesting.
way, that doesn't kill anybody. I've
No,
never I've
messy
never really
doesn't.
heard of anybody passing
Away
away
from
from
messy.
doing something messy. Yeah, it wasn't a
I
cause of
know.
death.
Oh
I
my
don't know.
gosh. So I think it's so interesting I love that you say these things because it is the truth. So um the capacity to show up messy to me also speaks, if you peel that back, what does it really mean if you're not able to show up messy? In other words, I am at a place, I've got a few decades on you. So you're like, if I had known what you know at 35, wow, I could have saved myself a hell of a lot of heartache and trouble. But here I am at 60. I'm like, okay, I guess better late than never, whatever. So what will come, and I will tell you this right now if you haven't already achieved it, but what will come as the years kind of tick along and you're still here on this earth, God willing, and universe willing, and whatever, is you get to a place where it just doesn't make a hill of beans to you anymore. You show up with your hair all crazy, you show up in your t-shirt, you don't necessarily have the best vocals. You may not love your music to your podcast. You may have, like I do, I live on the top of a mountain. So hopefully our signal holds in the middle of a snowstorm. Maybe it doesn't. Sometimes I go back and I listen to the podcast that's a little warbly because the signal's cutting in and out. And there's a small piece of me, the old perfectionist in me, that would be like, ah, shit, you probably shouldn't even put that thing on up there. And then the real me steps up and says, all right, little Miss Analytical, let's really get real. Of the 8 billion people in the world, what percent are A, on when your podcast is there, B, finding you, C, listening to see if you're warbling or not warbling, and D, does it really make an F worth of difference, because that's really not the point of the podcast. And if somebody's hung up on, well, the sound quality is a little bit off, well, I'm sorry, maybe that's a good time to take a step back and say, why does that bother me so? Because it isn't about me and my warbly sound, to be honest. So when people say, oh my gosh, I can't show up messy, the first thing that I say, truly with compassion, is, maybe that's a good place to get curious for yourself. Does this show up somewhere else in your life? Like, it's not really about a podcast, because truthfully, unless you're an amazing influencer, the percentage in the moment, especially if you're a beginner, like I'm a beginner, who and what is not going to make an enormous impact on what happens with the rest of my day, truthfully. So for me, knowing that up in my little analytical brain is the thing that pushes me to go, just get on and push the button, because really, who gives an F? Just do the thing. Because what needs to come out's coming out. Who needs to hear it's going to hear it. And at the end of the day, in 5 years or 5 months or 50 years, who is going to say, oh my God, did you listen to episode 23 with Miel? You know, she had a warble at 1.2 minutes. It was hideous. Oh, really? Okay. Well, okay, that's great. So that's my perspective on show up messy. Like, whatever. That's not really the thing. So, but it is definitely interesting, because it is absolutely an indicator of where our heart and our mind are not quite in resonance. There's a little disconnect, because if you listen to the whispers of your heart and you follow the whispers of your heart, then the whole can I show up messy doesn't even come into play, because can I show up messy isn't from the heart. Can I show up messy is coming from some other version of yourself, some younger version of yourself, some persona that you've developed or created, a belief system that your ego has said, oh, that's not good enough. That's not perfect enough. Don't put that thing out there. So that's really, I love that you say, and I started out messy. Because listen, nobody starts out as an Olympic athlete on day one. Taylor Swift didn't get to be who she is on day one overnight. I mean, she's maybe about your age, and that girl, she's been doing her music. She was, I don't know, 6, 8 years old. She cut her first record at
Mm.
10 or something. I mean, this girl's been hitting the pavement for decades. So we
Yeah.
pedestal people, I think, like, oh my gosh, look what they do on
Yeah.
their whatever, their podcasts, their music, their movies, their books, their whatever. And the reality is, you know what? They do the same thing like everybody else. They have self-doubt, they have boohoo moments, they have, potholes in the path. Everybody has it. Everybody has it. And so what I love is what you said
Yeah.
at the very beginning of this whole discussion is, what is my mission? How do I show up in life? What is my mission in life? And my perspective that I'm going to share with the listeners and share with you is exactly what you're doing. You're showing up as you. You show up as you, and you do what feels true in your heart, and that is your purpose. You are your purpose. All the extra
Yeah.
that comes along with it, the energetic abundance of, and I made $1 million, the energetic abundance of, and I, followed my heart and went back to school and got my degree because that was something that was significant to me. All of those things do occur, but those are all your human things. And at the end of the day, all your human stuff can go through all the different facets and layers and filters and iterations. But the one thing that is constant, no matter what, is the depth of who you are in your soul, that love that you came here as, and the love that you will leave here as. That never changes. It's all the junk that we decide to pile up in between. And so your showing up for yourself is what, to me, allows you to mirror to your clients, to bring best of you to the best of them. It's that dance again. You show up and lead the dance one way, and they say, "Oh, I see." And then you get in sync with each other. Now, all of a sudden, you have this commonality of a mission of let's bring this forward to the next and the next and the next. So, literally, you shift the collective one heart at a time, is kind of how I think about it. And I love that you're coaching. You're very, I've gone through some of your posts and they're fascinating to me. You really have tapped into the depth of resonating with who you really are at your truest self. In, are you working in your business, on your business, with yourself, external to yourself? Because the reality is your business and your personal growth are not two separate entities. They're not two distinct, I can do this on Monday and this on Friday, and the two pieces don't go together. You are your business is you. The energetic essence of the two pieces are partners in that dance. And I love that you've acknowledged it and you bring that
Yeah.
forward for your clients. It's really beautiful. Really, really
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And truth be told, Miel, I actually have faced some resistance in terms of that very thing because the story in our minds that no, there's got to be some like tangible business thing like that I can do which will guarantee results. Like that's a big thing in business is I want to get the outcome. I want to make the money, right? And it's like, okay, yeah, sure. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. And there's such insistence, which to your point earlier is just so interesting. Where is that coming from? Why do we need to be insistent on getting this result? But with my clients, I've had to say exactly what you were just saying and sort of affirm in them, you are no different. You are you. And I think we spend so much time running away from ourselves, denying ourselves, being frustrated with ourselves, that it's like, well, no, I can't be me. I don't even want to be. And it's like, love that part of you that doesn't want to be you. Love that part. That part of you is hurting. Okay, now show up as you. You know, you're a manager, you're a business owner, doesn't matter, all of it. You bring you to the table. You don't stay at home when you go to work. It is the same you. And I literally have to convince people of this. They're like, no, but I need the tactics. Give me the things to do. And it's like, sit down in the morning, have tea with yourself, welcome the broken, insecure parts of yourself that, you know, are kind of unsure of how this is all going to turn out. You're unsure if you're going to be able to get that result for your team. That's okay. And I think it's the next thing to say is that none of us actually want the guaranteed result. What? None of us actually want the guaranteed result. What we want is to be whole and connected in this moment. And we're already okay. We're already okay. There's nothing I need outside of this moment that's going to make me. This is the problem with achievement mentality is like, you know, I need the degree, I need the $1 million, I need whatever, I need to drive a Tesla. Otherwise, oh my God, I don't mean anything. And then I'm insignificant and whoever Juan and Sally next door, like they're better than me, they're richer than me, they're whatever, this comparisonitis. But it all begins with that sit down with yourself in the morning, especially when you don't want to. I've had a couple of mornings the last few days. Oh, I don't want to sit with me. I don't want to be, I don't want to be here. Here, as in inside myself. Okay, what's that about? And by the way, in terms of the business coaching I do, when you don't want to be with yourself, do you think that the ripple effect of that will impact your team? I'm not even going to answer the question. Like, hello. And so, what is our capacity for self love? Knowing that the way that to me the hero in the mirror works, the self love you give to yourself is the same love that you will be able to give to someone else. Period. The amount
It's
of love you
truly
can
that
give to
simple.
yourself is what you can give to someone else. Full
Mhm.
stop.
Full stop. And everything else is external validation. How much money can I make? Can I have a Tesla? Can I be successful? If I'm successful, what is the perception from what? From the outside of who am I? Well, how about if we start to put the same energy into internal validation that we put into external validation? Just imagine when you can love and accept yourself the way that you are because you're enough. There's no mistake, and without getting into do you follow, one religion over another or no religions or whatever, my I'm going to just share my general belief, which is there's more than just us here in 3D. Call it whatever you want. Follow it however you choose. That's not for me to say a peep about, but the reality is there's more than us. I personally believe that we are all here, a soul and a body, as a divine spark of love from whatever your background is. I don't really care. And you will leave this earth as a divine spark of love. And what you have available to you in the time in between are the moments. How do you want to spend your moments? Do you want to give them away to things that don't make a hill of beans? Do you want to invest it in your own self love and well being so that you're a full vessel to share that out to others? I mean, that's it, it's really, it sounds very like, oh, okay, Miguel, yeah, sure. Like you make it sound so simple. Why? Because it's so simple. It is. Simple doesn't equal easy. Simple just means don't clutter it up with bullshit. It's really that simple. You are love, period. Figure it out, own it, don't make excuses for it. It's not, I think people struggle with the idea of self love because, again, what will people think of me? Will they consider me to be selfish? Will they think of me as, oh, that's so weak? Will they think of me as, so as soon as that spark of that thought comes through
Yeah.
your mind, you are giving it away. You're listening to something else. You're listening to your ego. You're putting the weight of the significance of why are you here on this earth to everybody except for who it matters the most, which is yourself. And so that to wind all this up in our time together is why did I, not knowing shit from shillelaghs, to put it simply, about podcasting, about IT, about any of it, about whether it's going to roll into a business or not a business, why did I go, oh, I could do a podcast? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I really want to talk about this. This is what I talk about. This is what you can tell I get a little fired up because I'm like, I just really want to shake the collective by the shoulders and go, come on, guys, let's just get with it, okay? Here's the deal. If you put as much energy into yourself as you put into giving it to everybody else for the most inane reasons
Yeah.
out there, OMG, look what we could be as humanity. Phenomenal. So,
Yeah.
will I?
And
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of that,
yeah.
all of what you just said, what's really interesting too, Miel, is when we approach the broken parts, the parts that don't want to get up and speak in front of other people for fear of whatever, what might they think of me? Those parts, when we actually move in closer to those parts, what happens? They stop being scary. They stop being the parts that we are denying. And that's it. So just you're avoiding, and by you, I mean all of us, every single one of us that has an insecurity. When you avoid it, you think that it doesn't show. First of all, it does. And you think that you might not have to deal with it, but approaching it, getting closer to it, getting curious with it, like how you were doing just earlier. And that's how coaching works, by the way. You just say, what the heck is going on here with this? Why is this coming up? Asking all of these questions, I think that people feel it's scary. And if we could just, wrap on one thing, I would say it would be it gets less scary because you name it. It stops
Name it
being
to
this
tame
huge,
it.
dark, and hideous monster. Yes, you
Name it
name
to
it. And
tame
then
it.
it's like, oh, it just melts away. It's so beautiful. So I want to leave y'all with that encouragement to feel that you can approach the parts of yourself that you might have been denying for decades. It's not scary. Doesn't have to be. And the minute you do it, you're going to say, "Oh, I can love this in me because I can love this in others too."
Yeah, it's beautiful. So tell us how people find you, Ashley Fierce Meyer.
Miel, it's been such a pleasure, such an easy conversation.
Yeah.
Anybody who's interested in life or business coaching with me, you can find me and connect at herointhemirror.com or my podcast, which is anywhere,
And everywhere. I love it.
anywhere and everywhere in the
Perfect.
quantum.
In the quantum, just right where it's supposed to be. So all you got to do is just tap right in. It's beautiful. I'm so glad we chatted. Thank you
Yeah.
for your time. And I will pop all your info straight to
Yeah.
the show notes. And we're going to do this again for sure. There's going to be a part two, guaranteed.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Okay.